Okay, hello Cloud Gurus and welcome to this lecture. So we're going to summarize what we've learnt around KMS. Now, if you've done, well, hopefully you've done one of the associate exams. If not, you shouldn't be taking this course because you need an associate exam in order to do a security specialty. So go back and do the associate exams. But if you have done the associate exams, you'll know that you cannot realistically expect to pass an associate exam without a deep knowledge of VPCs. And we go through and we create VPCs, we destroy them, and I tell you that you should know it by memory before you go and sit the exam. The exact same principle applies to AWS KMS. KMS is a huge part of the security specialty exam. You need to know it inside out. I would go through and create and destroy keys and apply them to different services, etc., until you're really, really comfortable with it. So what is KMS? Well, hopefully you know by now, but it's a managed service that makes it easy for you to create and control encryption keys used to encrypt your data. It's integrated with other AWS services, including EBS, S3, Redshift, Elastic Transcodal, Workmail, RDS, and others to simplify and encrypt your data with encryption keys that you manage. So the keys is always the customer master key, and there's two types. There's the AWS customer master key, and then there's the customer managed customer master key. So the customer master key, doesn't matter which type, it always consists of the same thing. It always consists of an alias, so the name of the key, the creation date, the description, the key's state, whether it's enabled, disabled, whether it's waiting for import of your key material, or whether it's scheduled for deletion, etc. The key material, now the key material is either customer provided or AWS provided, and what you must understand about customer master keys is you can never export a KMS key from KMS. You can never ever export it. Understand that seriously. That's a big exam tip. So we mentioned that there's two types. There's the AWS customer master key for each service that's integrated with AWS KMS. So there's a managed one for S3, there's a managed one for RDS, etc., etc. Remember, the keys are mapped on a per region by region basis. If you create a key in Ireland and then you provision your S3 bucket, in Sydney, you're not going to be able to use that key with that S3 bucket. You have to create it in the same region. And then you also have customer managed keys, so not AWS managed, but customer managed keys. You generate these by providing AWS with the key material, which is what we did with OpenSSL. So that's what we went in and created using our envelope and using our token. So to set up a customer master key, let's just remember what we did. We created an alias and a description. We chose a material option. So you could either say that, that Amazon provide it or that you provide it. We then defined our key administrative permissions, so which IAM user or role can use this key. We then defined our key administrative permissions, so which IAM user or role has administrator access to this key. And then we also defined our key usage permissions, so which IAM users or roles can actually use this key to encrypt and decrypt data. We then went through our key material options. If we provide our own key material, then it's customer managed master key. In terms of your own key material, so you can import a symmetric 256-bit key from key management infrastructure into KMS and use it like any other customer master key, and we had to tick that little box. Why import your own key material? Well, you might have a compliance reason and you have to prove that randomness has met your requirements, and there's a whole bunch of ways you can introduce randomness into this key generation process. You could take a photo of the sky or clouds or something and use that as some kind of mechanism to add randomness. Completely beyond the scope of this course, but it could be a compliance reason. You could extending your existing processes to AWS. The main advantage, though, is to be able to delete key material without a 7 to 30 day wait. You can go in there and delete key material immediately. It will still take you 7 days to delete the key, but you can basically delete the key material and it will stop working immediately. And then you can also import new key material in again. And then you can also be resilient to AWS failure by storing your keys outside of AWS. So just a reminder of how we imported our own key material. We basically created a customer master key with no key material. We then downloaded a public key. This was called our wrapping key, and an import token. We then used OpenSSL to generate our encrypted key material, and we then imported our encrypted key material along with our import token, and that created our customer master key. And you will need to understand that process going into the exam. One thing you should also understand is around imported key material, the availability and durability is going to be different. If AWS have a regional outage, they can create the customer or recreate the customer master key. Let's say an asteroid hits somewhere in the UK and destroys the entire let's not say region for God's sake, but let's say it destroys the two data centers, but the UK is still okay. We can actually just rebuild the data centers somewhere else. So that's what we go ahead and do. We rebuild the data centers up in Scotland, which is still okay after the asteroid hit. Now, Amazon would be able to they've got enough metadata around the customer master key to recreate it. However, you still need to provide them with the imported key materials. You need to, still provide that to them. They will then be able to recreate the customer master key. If you lose that imported key material, then your data is basically gone. It's in a black hole. You'll never be able to get it back. Secure key generation is also up to you. There's no automatic rotations with customer master keys, so do bear that in mind. And ciphertexts are not portable between customer master keys, and that's both AWS managed and as well as customer managed. What a ciphertext? Basically, when I go encrypt something, it creates a cipher. I can only use the customer master key that created that cipher to decrypt it. I can't go in and use another customer master key to decrypt it. It just won't work. Let's look at two scenarios. So we've got our user, they're using our console and they're going into the AWS control plane. They're interacting with a whole bunch of public APIs. Thankfully, you've got CloudTrail turned on and it's logging all that to an S3 bucket. CloudTrail is then sending an event source to CloudWatch. CloudWatch has a whole bunch of different event rules, and one of the event targets is Lambda. Lambda is detecting that a user has gone in and is trying to, has gone in and disabled a key. You can basically program a Lambda function to automatically respond to that and then go in and enable the key in KMS. You could also tell it to fire off an SNS notification to your security people saying this user's gone in into KMS and they've tried disabling a key. You need to look into this. So that's one way we could have event-driven security. As soon as the user does that, essentially within a few seconds or certainly within a minute, that key would then be enabled again and your security people would be aware of it. Another scenario is we've got our AWS environment, we've got AWS config turned on and it's monitoring KMS. It's all storing this, all the data into an S3 bucket. We define an event target as our Lambda as a custom rule, and this custom rule is saying when somebody tries to go in and maybe provision a new key, or maybe they try and go in and change the administration ownership of that key, or maybe they try and go in and basically enable themselves to use that key. The custom rule would then alert AWS config. AWS config would fire off an SNS notification, and that would alert your security people that somebody is going in there and messing with your keys. So there's a couple of ways you can do really good event-driven security. Just be aware of that. You obviously always want either CloudTrail or AWS config turned on. I'd turn on both. It's best practice. So I would not go into this exam without reading the AWS KMS FAQs. It is really, really important to read the FAQ. And like I said, the best way to get really strong with this is to go in and just create your own keys, destroy your keys, try changing your user levels. So, you have a user who's just got S3 full access. Then you've got a user who's got, just administrator access, but system administrator access, Then you've got a user who's got administrator access, and then you've got your root user, and you can go in and see all the different ways in which it responds. You need to have a really deep understanding of KMS going into the exam, but hopefully this was fun and useful. One more fun fact before you go. Did you know that John Adams and Thomas Jefferson died on exactly the same day, which was the 4th of July, exactly 50 years after they declared independence? So you could imagine reading the newspapers that day. Two of the main founding fathers, the second and third president of the United States, died exactly 50 years later after they helped declare independence, and they died within 4 hours of each other. Fun fact, I always found that very interesting. Do check out that HBO series. It's really, really good. So that's it from me, guys. If you have any questions, please let me know. If not, feel free to move on to the next lecture. Thank you.